is watching. The Illuminati are planning to turn the world. The space aliens have arrived. Grab your hats. This is tinfoil hat time.
Greetings and welcome back to SwitchedtoLinux. My apologies if there is lagginess. I ran system updates, which is why I rarely run system updates, and it pushed the new version of Chromium on the system, and I think it's the new version of Chromium. There's something that is really causing lagginess in the system, and I don't know what it is. So my apologies if there is going to be some lag on this today. But we are here with our panelists from our patron supporters. So I think you guys are plugged in now, so everyone can say hello. And I'm going to work on a couple things here and see if I can get the lagginess to drop down a little bit. That's your cue. Say hello, people.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Anyone out there wants to join us and put on your tinfoil hats, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah. Well, this one's a supporter stream, so you have to be a patron or a thing.
I mean, the people in chat can just sit there at home with their tinfoil hats too.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Grab your hats, Okay, so it does seem as though the lagginess might be due to running 3 separate cameras on this. I dropped the kitty cam after we got started, but since I don't need it at this point, and so I seem to be okay, but let us know if it seems a little laggy. Just kind of let me know, just so like lag or something in there a little bit if it's a little laggy. It's a combination, I think, of running 3 HD cameras and the new version of Chromium is what my thought is. Jan Lopez says
it's some jittery and laggy on my end, but most of the time, if I disable my video camera and just run with the voice, I can see everybody just fine again.
Okay, so
but again, I'm on DSL. It does whatever it wants.
Yeah, and I pulled you guys in at a lower frame rate over here just in case that was the issue. But then I realized that I probably want to bump you guys up a little bit because I'm reliant on how you're looking for how the stream runs. So we'll see. We'll figure it out. We'll get it figured out. Let's see who is on. Quint's on. Hello, y'all.
Hi.
All right, Stan Cooper, greetings. Frost Ranger, the Frozen Realm, hello. And Bite My Vape is, how are you doing? I am doing well. Sleepy Eyes Vince is here, and he jumped on as well. Does YouTube not show notifications for some subscribers anymore? I don't know. I have no idea. I think you have to be watching the phase of the moon to figure out, figure things out for that. I don't know. Let's see. CJ's on. Lucky to make the live stream. Some idiot at my school claimed he had a gun. Oh, Lord. But the only gun I saw was the one the SWAT team had pointed at me and my classmates as they searched their backpacks. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I am glad everything is okay. Wow. This is the world, people. This is why if you see me in public anymore, I'm probably packing heat because it's just getting too crazy. Q1 Fiend, how's it going there? Hi, man.
Hey.
All right, let's see, K2610, your number is called Shadow1028, hello there. Tried to go back to Mint, but Manjaro is just better, KDE, at least for the application. I think if you're running KDE, I think Manjaro might actually be better, yes. So everyone's saying it seems okay. It just looks a little laggy on my end, but we'll see what we do here. All right, so today what's up?
Pizza did a really interesting video on how to get the charms bar from Windows 8 in KDE, and it's like almost exactly the same.
Really? Yeah, I saw that he did the video. I didn't get a chance to watch it.
I like the charms bar. It was actually that was one of my favorite.
What in the world is a charms bar?
It's on Windows 8. It was only on Windows 8 and 8.1. It was the bar that would come in on the by default on the right side of the screen when you threw your mouse over there or swiped in on a touchpad. It would, give you a little thing with all the settings and things. It was one of those radically inconsistent things.
It sounds like
this
something
would be really cool
you would get
if the system was consistent.
It seems like something you get your wife for Valentine's Day. Hey, baby, I got you this charms bar.
That's right. That's right. Oh boy, oh boy. All right, we're going to save our comments right there. We're going to dive on in. So today we're talking about the dangers of the gig economy. So what is the gig economy? Well, the gig economy is defined as a free market system which temporary positions are common and organizations contract with independent workers for short engagement. So what does this mean? Well, this means Uber, this means Lyft, this means Instacart, Foodora, not Fedora, Foodora. And it means, let's see, all those types of things. We have one in our town called Order Up, of course. So basically it's an app-based system. You have your little app on your phone, get my app, and then in theory you go out and they push it like you're a business owner and all this. No, you're not a business owner. But that's what a gig economy is. And so why do we want to talk about it? Well, the reason we want to talk about a gig economy is that this is a potentially dangerous thing for our culture. So do you guys have any introductory comments on the gig economy before we dive too much further here?
As far as this particular thing goes, especially with Ubers, about the only one I got any real hands-on visual knowledge about is I had a neighbor that was Ubering for a while, and he rapidly figured out the money was taken in was not worth the money he had to put into his car to keep it up, to keep the Uber system running.
Yep.
And I kind of had that figured out when he first started it, and he was gone, you know, and then he'd come home for a half an hour, he's gone again for hours. But I don't see where it has any good use in the world, you know, unless, you know, you want to give up your life to these things.
Good. Yep. All right, anyone else?
It's good for the major corporations because you piggyback on their name, they make money on you, and you're basically an independent contractor. You get no benefits, no job security. You get nothing good out of it. If you, in the case of Uber, you run your own car into the ground, and they're a fortune to replace these days. So for the person trying to make a living out of it, it's all bad from what I could tell. But the people they're slaving for, you know, it's good for them because they're basically benefiting from someone else's labor.
Well, you bring up these things about corporations, and not too long ago, I discovered a little thing about corporations. Some people that sit on the board for one corporation may go over and sit on a board for 3 or 4 other corporations, and these corporations are all interlocked by different board members. And that's how they're run.
It's a very, very sketchy thing because obviously the demand from consumers was there. There were some industries that really needed some disruption. The tax industry essentially was a regulated monopoly, but the way that it's been implemented, granted it's a very, very brand new situation we have here, the way it's been implemented needs some looking at and needs some redefining.
Yep. Ben, any thoughts?
Well, I mostly, like Daniel, have more experience with Uber. I've only taken it twice, and it wasn't on my account. But it seems like if with Uber out there, if you had the gumption to start your own taxi business, you just about couldn't because nobody would find you and nobody knows about you. So you might as well be doing Uber on the side, which really means you're doing Uber instead.
Correct. Yeah, and so, and Vincent makes a wonderful point where there were definitely cases where we needed some disruption, and that's true. And you know, there's certainly some needs. For the life of me, I can't figure out why anyone would possibly use an app to order in your groceries, because for me, I work from home. I'm in my home all the time, and for me, going to the grocery store is exciting. I get out of the house. However, there are a lot of people that are just so busy, they don't necessarily work in the home, and they really want to have those services, whether it's, you know, I mean, pizza delivery's been a thing forever. Now, though, we can get McDonald's delivery. It's just McDonald's doesn't have to front the bill for it. So it does serve a legitimate need.
Yeah, but McDonald's now has it where you get your food through a kiosk instead of from a person.
Yep. Quint, do you have anything to say about the gig economy before we jump in?
I got logged out and my webcam just went out, so I'm all good now. I'm having a lot of
a lot of technical issues. Yeah.
I think all it is, especially like the Uber Eats type thing, it's all just laziness. Like the only reason that people do it is because they're too lazy just to get out and go into their cars, just to go drive their cars, go to McDonald's, pick up the food, and then leave.
Who wants to do that when they're engaged in a nice Netflix movie?
Yeah, there you go.
But the thing is, it's just, I feel like people are just so lazy nowadays. And for, like you were saying, for the people who actually work the gig economy, they don't make very much money and they don't have very many benefits. Like the Uber drivers don't get very many benefits.
How about zero benefits?
Yeah.
So this is actually, though, a perfect lead into the next article. So this is from WorkSmart, a UK organization, and they have 7 problems with the gig economy. All right, so the main problems with the gig economy, that is pay, rights, and conditions, have to do with the gap in the outdated employment laws. And that's exactly what it is. They're taking advantage of this. Now, I got involved in a little gig economy thing before it was called the gig economy. Didn't realize it. But when I first stopped teaching and I was starting my own business, of course, whenever you start something, it's kind of slow to get rolling. So I'm like, oh, what else can I do? Well, there was a thing, I want to say it might have been tutor.com or something like that, where, you go in, you demonstrate that you have the ability to do something and tutor and teach something. And so they're like, oh yeah, we'd love to have you on there. So here I am, I schedule the time on my thing, on my own computer, of course, schedule the time when I'm available, and then people come up. And you basically have to communicate. Now, back then, this is almost a decade ago, we didn't have good access web cameras, we didn't have a lot of your writing tablets, things like this. I am literally trying to teach somebody with a text message, very much like the chat window here, tutoring them in chemistry. Yeah. Rage is all I can say. And then we wouldn't get real good students. We'd get people that would want you to just give them the answer, and that's not what we're supposed to do. But the problem is, here I am with a PhD, 3 years experience as a college professor, and all they wanted to pay me at most was $12 an hour. Like, yeah, that lasted for about 3 months. I'm like, nah, not worth my time.
I know there's things. There's a lot of like online schools in Atlanta where it's the same sort of deal.
Yeah. Those are slightly different, but not much different. So here's what the 7 problems with the gig economy according to WorkSmart, and I really like this. So number 1, self-employed gig works does not come with pensions, sick pay, holiday entitlement, or parental leave, and you have to be a worker or an employee to get those. So, and that's UK, of course, where they have parental leave in the law. We don't have that in the United States, but there are 0 benefits. You are literally trading hours for dollars in the simplest, most basic of ways. Okay. Gig workers get paid per job, not by the hour. And this is it depends. That's not an absolute thing. There's some that are per hour type things, but for the most part, that's right. So many workers live incredibly on demand at the back of the column online app just to make ends meet. The term encroaches on essential family time and a healthy social life. I can't go do whatever engagement that is because I got to go and, drop this guy off downtown. All in all, lack of the most basic financial guarantees, job security, employment rights, or structure around work are a growing source of stress. It's harder for people with insecure work and income to get mortgages and loans, and therefore to plan for their future. And the effects of the gig economy, in which bids down prices and profit margins, has split over traditional mainstream employment, where companies and public services are adopting increasingly precarious and contractual arrangements just to complete. 0-hour contracts are now commonplace in the NHS, schools, and even the airlines. A 0 contract, if you're unaware, that is like a 0-hour contract means we're contracted, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get paid for anything. And that's a problematic thing. So anything about that you guys want to chat about?
Well, it's funny that you brought up airlines, because I just heard on the radio this morning that Delta is going to start using biometric facial recognition programs to speed people through the line to get through to TSA.
And guess what?
Stuff.
Quint, it's coming to Atlanta first. They're the test market for it.
Yeah.
So
I will report to you guys if I go through it.
Go through with your tinfoil hat, see what happens.
well, that's when now your face is in the system. So if you get in trouble and they have your iPhone, hey, look at this. Poof, you're busted.
Yeah. All right.
No.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Discussing the gig economy. I know when I first moved down here to Florida, I had to work for another doctor before I had the opportunity to start my own practice. And that was sort of like a gig thing because basically I got a percentage of what I brought into the practice. No benefits, no nothing. I only worked if he had overages. If he didn't have any patients for me, I didn't do any work. There were no guarantees. If I saw patients, I got my percent. If I didn't see patients, I didn't get anything. Used my own car, my own gas, my own everything. Eventually, thankfully, I got out of that gig, started my own practice. Then when I started doing computers again, now similar to you, Tom, only in the computer field rather than the chemistry field, I see these offers from these, online. I think tutor.com contacted me. There's another online place that keeps contacting me to teach A+ and Network Plus and, those certification courses. And they're offering me like, $12 to $15 an hour. And I'm already working 3 jobs before that. And I'm like, no, that's not worth it. I work a legitimate teaching job at a college. What do I need this for? Yeah. So it's sort of a joke at this point, when these places email me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's this push for cheaper everything. And I can see the attractiveness of this to a business, for example, a restaurant, who now doesn't have to employ their own delivery driver. They can outsource it. And I can see the push from consumers to want the cheapest delivery option, cheapest food option. But all that ends up happening is that you end up allowing these big corporations to make more profit. You end up with workers getting less and less and less. And just this massive, much more greater income inequality problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Jesse mentioned here that anyone employed, self-employed meets the criteria, what's called the gig economy. I'm not sure I would completely agree. And the reason is the gig economy is more, it is a version and a type of self-employed, but the differential is the gig economy is, as we're defining it at least, is kind of an app-based thing. You're at the mercy of the app, or someone utilizes an app to get the services. There's one central place where you're tied in, versus, if I understand Jesse talking to you before, you very much do like what I do. There's a lot of different job opportunities out there. You can look in a variety of different ways, but I'm not tied to an individual company. That I get my clients pay me directly. In the gig economy, it's the big corporation is the intermediary collecting money from the end consumer and giving that bit to you. And that's kind of the way I would differentiate that.
Yeah, I was going to say, my parents are both self-employed, so that doesn't, it's all different.
Yeah, it is different. That's one of the things I want to talk about is one of the things, who was it? Was it Dan, I think, mentioned it talking to the neighbor, where you don't realize, like, you take, I just got, $400 in from Uber this month. Well, that's great, but now you have to take, because when you're not an employee, when you're a contractor in that sense, 25% of that is automatically out for taxes. Then you got to pay for the wear and tear on your car. You got to pay the extra, all of those fees come out of it. And if you treat it like a business, like you're supposed to treat it like a business, your bottom line is practically close to nothing. And that's not sustainable. And that's the problem. So there is an old economy system that matches this. Anybody know what it is? It starts with the letter S.
Snake oil?
No, not snake oil, but that's getting close. How about serfdom? Remember what serfdom is? This is the slavery collapses in the South. All of these people are set free from their former obligations of slavery, what do? You have no experience except that. So basically, most of these people that were set free simply kept working on the fields for the plantation owners. They were free to leave at any time. They just didn't have the ability to leave because they had no money, they had no resources, they had no skill, they had no property, they had no nothing.
Yeah, I know all about this since I live in the South.
Yeah, so
we even have,
want to add anything to serfdom on that?
Yeah, you pretty much said what the whole deal is that they, yeah, I know back a long time ago that we did have relatives who owned slaves.
So
yeah, basically,
and you understand
they just didn't have any. They just couldn't even do anything but work on the farm. Like I know it was somewhere. I think it was in. It was near New Orleans. We went to this really old plantation, and they were people still living in the slave cabins until like 1979.
Yeah, and that's what happens. The gig economy moves us right back to serfdom. We don't own anything. We don't have anything. We are completely dependent on the serf owner to throw us the breadcrumbs to survive, and that's our biggest danger with the gig economy. Ben, welcome back. Do you want to add anything to these 7 problems?
I completely missed what you were talking about. My network went crazy.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and skip on that. We're talking about 7 major problems. So now we'll kind of dive into some close ones. Some of these I think Vince passed over. So when I get to the ones that Vince passed over, we'll have him kind of take the lead here. All right. So how much for a driverless taxi ride? This raised a fascinating question because, of course, I think it's this month or next month. Google is going to start having the fully autonomous self-driving taxis that you're not even, there's no individual gig employee in the middle of this anymore. Do you think that they're just, hey, the human resource is the most expensive resource. We're going to cut that entire thing out. We're going to just charge the bare minimum that we can. No, prices are just about the same. Just about the same. I mean, they're not higher. They're not exactly the same, but they're just about the same. So now we have a company that, sure, they invested the money and the time to get a self-driving car working. I consent to that. But here's what they did, is now they're cutting out the mix because they got to this point where they now have a car that doesn't have an employee. Therefore, it costs less money to run because you're not paying a worker, whether that's a contractor or anything else, the time to move the thing around. And you're not cutting it down. That means that Google has a bigger slice for them because when you're transporting things, somebody had mentioned in here, Jesse Crypto mentioned a lot of 18-wheeler owners use brokers, and 18-wheelers oftentimes are contractors to these individual brokers, so like what he's talking about. So what happens here is when you are transporting, you hire an 18-wheeler to load, transport a shipment from California to New York. So you do that, they get it over. The truck driver gets a cut of that cost. So now the fee for that, the end consumer, you're paying the item, you're basically paying the store, but the store has paid the shipping company, who has in turn paid the truck driver, who the shipping company then has paid the final, like the manufacturer. So you got manufacturer, goes to the shipping company, who has to pay out the shipper, who sends this to the grocery store, who is bought by the end consumer. They're cutting out the entire middle person, the middle class guy, who is in charge of transporting this, but they're just keeping the difference off for themselves, you understand?
So one of the things is that how is gas going to work with these Waymo cars? How are they going to, how can they can't automatically fill up gas?
Well, my guess is when they're a certain level, they drive back to headquarters and get fueled up. So a poor employee will be there. That's his entire job now, filling up.
Yeah.
They'll get one of those Honda Osmo robots to do it.
Johnny Five's going to hit up a Radio Shack.
Johnny Five is alive.
So of course, we'll probably get those very soon because we have Google Fiber in our city.
Yeah, well, the Waymos are right now in Phoenix.
But I'm sure we'll get them at one point because we have a lot of Google stuff in our city.
Oh, you might. Yeah, let's see, 100 square miles of Phoenix, Arizona. It was kept busy so there's 400 users in that. So of course they're right now we don't know exactly what the price is going to be. They have price placeholders in there, and they're just about the same as they would be to take an Uber or a Lyft or something. So thoughts on Waymo and this whole self-driving thing, even cutting out the gig guy? I mean, the gig guy's now gone. That's their goal. Uber's goal, Lyft's goal, Google's goal, cut the gig guy out so they can just dominate entirely. Thoughts on that?
Well, it's a way for them to capitalize on the increase in technology. I mean, gradually.
Is it really that good, though?
For them, it is. For everyone else, no. They make more
reliability
money.
And safety.
Yeah, well, that's all part of the negative for the rest of the world. I mean, I wouldn't get into a driverless car because I don't trust them. What happens if the computer driving the car blue screens in the middle of the highway?
Yeah.
You know?
Oops.
I know I don't want Skynet driving my coffin.
I'll tell you about the truck I rented a couple of weeks ago at the end of the stream.
All right.
Pretty scary.
The other thing is that these gig economy people are losing their jobs because they're being replaced by computers.
Yep.
Like I think we went to it was not too long ago, we went to a McDonald's. It was like in the middle of nowhere. They still had all the touch screens, and there were only two cashiers, but they still had all the touch screens. They're rolling it out fast.
Yeah, I had lunch at a McDonald's yesterday with a friend, and same thing. You know, they got 4 kiosks and 1 or 2 cashiers, you know. In fact, I think they had 1 cashier working, and
I know another thing is they have like this little it's like a tablet like for little kids so they can play games like in this one section of the restaurant.
Oh, I did see those at McDonald's. Yeah. Oh Lord.
Ours have them too.
Oh, Lordy. Wow.
There's a comment
And
that
they're advertising. I don't know if you've seen all like the Happy Meal commercials, but a lot of them have QR codes on them now where you can like download an app.
Oh yeah, scary.
Oh,
Vincent, go ahead.
there's a comment that Bite My Vape said here. Uber assumes no liability if it falls on the driver, being an independent contractor. That's a very interesting one because there was a recent case here where an Uber driver, I think, drove for, I can't remember how many hours, 12 or 18 hours straight. And there was a guy he was carrying, ended up trying to get out of the car, but the driver didn't know and drove off. And this guy ended up being knocked over and killed. And so this driver now has been convicted of careless driving or negligent driving, whatever it was. And as a postscript to the article, it did say Uber has not had any liability put on them. And so in addition to that, when I drive around here and you see all these delivery drivers or delivery riders, they're all on bicycles, by the way, a lot of these guys around where we are. They're on bicycles, and there's a big, massive safety risk there as well. That's another real big concern that we have.
Yeah. And if you guys didn't catch it, it was a week or two ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, who was it? CBC Marketplace, which is that, muckraker newscast up in Canada. They did a fascinating take on the bicycle delivery ones. They looked at Uber Eats, Foodora, and there's a third one. I forget what the other one is. But they looked at all those. So they looked at, a couple guys were injured on the job, and they just didn't care because we just hire another guy to take your place. No big deal, Because what ends up happening is the contractors are now outbidding for who will drop the lower, who will take the least amount of money. We'll get into that more in a bit. But now I want to jump into this business aspect of it. What is the difference between an independent contractor and an employee? Now, I have not had an employee status for, I think, 8 years. I stopped being an employee 8 years ago. And I've done a range of different type of things, and some things I got 1099s. I think 1 or 2 things I did a W-2 just because what ended up happening is I was a contractor for the company. They ended up being bought out by a big corporation who then put everybody under a banner, under like a workforce solution type banner thing. And they wanted everybody as wage payroll, but they didn't actually give us benefits or anything like that. So it was still contracting. It was just I had a W-2 instead of a 1099. It was a weird setup. But when you are self-employed, you have to pay more taxes. You have a self-employment tax. You have to pay more taxes. You have to make sure that you're paying quarterlies. You have to cover your own insurances. The only major benefit self-employees get in that respect is that 100% of my medical is completely tax deductible so long as my medical expenses do not exceed my income expenses. And so, or my income rather. And so that's kind of the way that works. I think Quint froze. Did everybody else freeze? All right.
No.
Okay,
Nope.
Looks like Quint froze on us. All right. Quint's
My
back.
hangouts just went out again. It said the video
You got
call
two Quints
ended.
on the screen.
We do have 2 Quints on the stream.
It said the video call ended because of an error.
Interesting. Well, the rest of us are still here. All right.
And there's 2 Quints on the stream.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, we do.
there it
We have
is.
2 Quints on this on field. So.
One's frozen.
Yeah. We have the good Quint and the bad Quint.
We can just look at my nice logo, though.
Yep.
I need to redo this. This is not an SVG. There's an SVG version of this. I need to redo it in SVG.
All right. So, onto this. Why does it matter? Employees are less likely to default under the tax obligations. Well, I guess that's why does it matter if an employer decategorizes? And this is kind of what we'll dive into this a little bit. There's this ongoing debate: are Uber drivers or Lyft drivers, etc., are they employees or are they not? What CBC Marketplace found up in Canada is that one of them was listed as couriers, one of them was listed as call centers, and one of them wasn't even classified. And all of those have completely different laws as how they regulate. But for a self-employed person, you have to be much more careful so as to not have more tax penalties. And you have to make sure you're not paying more taxes than you should have to pay. As long as you're paying quarterlies, you won't get the extra fines. And so you have to keep that in mind. Now, is it like, oh, we just want to be employees? No, I like being self-employed better. I like saying if I wake up tomorrow, I'm like, I do not feel like doing anything, and I'm not going to work today. That's my choice. Now, I can't do that every day. That won't be good, but you know what I'm getting at. Self-employment type stuff. Brian, you probably fall under this category, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So what's your take on this? Do people who drive for Uber and Lyft, etc., do they understand their obligations as contractors?
Some of them might, but a lot of them might not. Mm-hmm. Like you said, independent contractors, if you're looking at it like a true business, a lot of them don't. I mean, I worked as an independent contractor for another practice. Back then, I really didn't know as much as I knew now, and I just, take whatever money I had, an accountant would figure out my taxes. But I was pretty much almost like a job, except I didn't get any benefits, I didn't get any stability, and I didn't get any guarantee of work. Now that I have my own practice and I'm on the hook on a paper trail, I have to have all my expenses logged. I got to keep all my business receipts. For a while, I had at one point up to 3 employees. Now it's just my wife and I, and we're co-owners. So right now I don't have any employees. But at one point I had 3 employees that I had to get paperwork done on. It's a whole different ball of wax when you're the employer. My deal with the college is a little bit different because I'm not really a full employee. I'm what they call an adjunct.
Yep.
So, yeah, I get, like you were talking about, I get a W-2 instead of a 1099, but I don't get any benefits. And if they wanted to, they could drop me. So there's no job security. So that's sort of like a side gig for me right now. I just kind of do that because I like it and it's a change of pace. But they're all different, and you have to behave differently in each of them. Being an independent contractor is really rough on the outside, especially now, because now the person you're contracting for doesn't take a lot of the liability, and if something happens on the job, you're on the hit for it.
Yep. In fact,
Like
they
with
take
an
0
Uber driver.
liability.
Yeah, I
Uber is
know.
not liable at all.
My dad has 3 people who work for him, and we actually we had a really hard time getting health insurance after Trump became president, and so we have like business health insurance now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Obamacare like killed the ability to get good insurance in this country. I think what Trump did is he at least made it. He made it so you didn't have to have it, but at the same token, I mean, our healthcare is completely messed up. So,
yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone else self-employed on the panelists?
So I'm both. I'm self-employed and I am an employer as well.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, so I run a small business and I have employees. And one thing I will say is that because we have a mixture of both full-time staff, part-time staff, and casual staff, and I suppose you can sort of put casual staff in the same context as contractors because they can potentially just walk in and walk out of a job, but they're still eligible for certain benefits where we are here. One thing I will add is that good staff is very hard to find. That's one thing I will add, extremely hard. And I think the same would apply for the gig economy. You could have someone who is just rubbish at what they do, but still being able to do it because they happen to accept the lowest possible payment for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other conversation on employees versus contractors? Anything else you want to dive into?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I gave up having employees. It was so hard to find really good employees. You know, try as I might, you know, the best I could get was kind of mediocre, and then they'd leave on their terms, and they didn't care about you whatsoever, and they'd leave you high and dry. So now I just have a little family-run business, and I like it much better because, again, I'm in control. There's no one else that I have to worry about. You know, it's just much better.
But if you find a good employee, we've got a few good employees, and we will bend over backwards to do whatever they need to keep them. Yeah. If you find some good ones, they are gold.
Right. Well, the one gold I have right now is the one I still have, and that's my wife.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's like dynamite.
We had a couple weeks ago. We had 7 inches of heavy snowfall, and the guy that's hired by our condo association here, he subs out the snow removal because he doesn't have a plow anymore. And the guy that came in, he plowed everybody's walkways except the 2 elderly people's. He didn't plow up to the mailboxes, so we couldn't get to the mailboxes, all this kind of stuff. So, and he's going there and talking to everybody, gathering information. And it's just like, yeah, dude, like, he's like, I just got to find a better person to snow shovel, you know?
Do you think that was done on purpose?
No, I think they were just not quality controlling their work. They didn't finish and then go, okay, let's walk around and ask what else should we do. Like, they didn't think, oh, people need to check their mail. We better shovel off the sidewalk to go to the mailboxes. You know, they didn't say, count the number of doors and do we have that many walkways shoveled? You know, they didn't do basic QA stuff.
Is that the first time they've done snow at your place?
I don't know.
If it is, it might be they just don't know the routine. If it isn't, they're just plain lazy.
No. Because, I mean, it's like, I understand how they possibly could have missed the last person's walkway, but they would not have should they have gone over and plowed to the mailbox. I mean, that's part of the contract. Plow to the mailbox so people can check their mail without walking through 7 inches of snow, you know? But the one I'm kind of like right in the middle of the building, and the door right next to me with a 94-year-old man, they didn't shovel his walkway. It's right in the middle of the parking complex. They simply missed it, you know, because they didn't say, oh, you know, how do you miss shoveling a walkway, you know, when every other one's done? It was weird. So, and he actually billed the guy twice. So I was like, well, you can send more of those checks my way because I went through and finished. You know?
Yeah.
But, yeah. So.
Yeah, I know my grandparents live in a sort of like townhouse type situation like this, and there's always stuff going on like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fun. All right, so I think this kind of starts Vincent's articles. I think I did 3 in a row here. Uber getting sued by taxi drivers in Australia's largest class action lawsuit. Vincent, any comment on this article here? I didn't get a chance to read it.
Yeah, not much more than what I read from the article there.
Oh, I think we lost Vincent.
Yeah.
We lost Vincent right when he needed him.
Yeah, you got Quint's bug.
Is it? I think it's Chromium 70. It has to be Chromium 70 is what all these issues are.
It might be. Let's see what I'm on. All right, go ahead, Vincent.
He just dropped off.
He just dropped.
Okay, he's back on.
Am I back?
Yes,
Yep.
you're back. All right,
That was really
see
weird.
what version I'm on. Yeah, you know what, Quint? My computer just upgraded to Chromium 70, and I'm experiencing issues myself.
It was really weird
I'm
because
on Chromium 70 also. It's Chromium 70. That's what all the issues have to be.
Lordy.
That was really,
I'm
really
using
strange because I could still hear you guys. And you were still talking to me, but it seemed like you were going, hey, where's Vince? Where's Vince? Where's Vince?
Yeah, you vanished on us. All right, so we missed from the very beginning of the article. So talk to us about this Uber
with this
article.
article, it goes back to when Uber first started here in Australia, back in 2014, I think they said.
We lost him again.
Oh, no.
It's like Google Hangouts doesn't want him to talk about this.
It's a conspiracy.
It's
Everybody
a stream
tighten your
interruption.
hats. Pardon us for the interruptions. We lost Vince again.
It has to be Chromium 70. I don't know what else it would be, because we all have that in common.
Yeah,
'cause
well-
I'm on Vivaldi.
Am I
I'll
the
tell you
only
what
one
I'm
on
going to do
Firefox?
after this stream's over here. I'm going to roll back my Chromium version.
The only thing is that Chromium 69 doesn't have the thing to turn off the automatic Google sign-in.
Okay,
That's
let's
the
see
good
if
thing
Vince
about
comes
Chromium
in.
70.
Well, I'll figure out how to roll back that package later. Okay. Yeah, we've lost Vincent again, so we'll see if he comes back. The other one he passed out to us is Foodora, not Fedora, Quint's favorite operating system, but Foodora. Loses an unfair dismissal case and is ordered to pay a former delivery rider $16,000. Again, I just dropped these in, so I didn't get a chance to. I didn't get a chance to read these. I was hoping that Vincent would be able to explain them. So basically, this one has to do, let me just read through the article here real quick. Failed food delivery company Foodora has lost an important court case, and the decision may have wide-reaching consequences for Uber, Deliveroo, and other businesses in the gig economy. Fair Work Commission decided that Foodora had unfairly dismissed one of its former bicycle delivery riders after he spoke out publicly against the company's worsening pay and conditions. Oh, so if you speak out against how bad your working conditions and pay is, they just fire you, because we got a lot of other guys that work for us anyway.
Vince, are you live?
Yeah, I'm back. All right.
All right, greetings. Should we try again?
I had to restart my browser. I don't know what happened there.
Are you on Chromium 79?
Yep.
Or 70? Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I am too.
back to the Uber thing. The Uber thing, back when it first started, the service was actually considered illegal here. And I think they operated it illegally for at least a year, 18 months. And that's what that lawsuit, I think, is about, because now all these taxi drivers have lost all the value that they had in the license that they had to run a taxi. And I don't know, there's good and bad in that, because that was one of the industries I thought needed some disruption. And then I think you were just touching on the Fedora thing, what was that? What was that about? That was about about the classification of employees. That's right.
Yeah.
Here we have quite strict rules about who is considered an employee and who is considered a contractor. But these companies were still getting around it somehow or other. But these guys, Foodora, it's really funny because, and I'm probably being very, very cynical here, but read between the lines here. The tax department here looked into them very, very closely. And they basically were saying, no, these guys that you are having deliver your food are employees. You need to pay them their leave benefits, their superannuation, which is our compulsory retirement funds. And around about the same time that ruling came about, what happened? Foodora went into voluntary administration.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I mean, they're expanding everywhere else in the world, but they've gone into voluntary administration here as soon as all these costs started to mount up for them.
Yeah, because it's not sustainable. It's not good for the employees. It's good for the corporation, and that's simply it. You know, and that's where we find ourselves. Is these guys are going to do what they can. They're going to profit before they get a chance. Before the law takes place, they're going to profit as much as they can profit, and then as soon as they can no longer be profitable, they'll just close it all down and move on to the next thing that the law has not caught up to yet. which is sad. And I think the last one, I think this is also, did you send me this one too? Or not? Smart company learning from Foodora. How should the gig economy workers be defined? Okay, I think this was another one.
Yeah, I think that says mostly the same thing.
Yeah, okay. All right, so why I started thinking about this, this is an article I chose not to throw into the news last week, but it certainly piqued my interest enough to think about the gig economy. Instacart. Now, we have Instacart around here. If I go to Wegmans, invariably you're going to find Instacart folks who are walking around the grocery store. What's that?
We have it at Whole Foods here.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have Whole Foods, so we see.
But we have the Amazon. Prime members get 10% off at Whole Foods, which is actually very nice because Whole Foods is very expensive.
It costs 30% more, and you get your 10% off for paying Amazon the privilege of $100 a year. So you pay Amazon $100 a year for the privilege of giving 10% off food that's priced 30% more than anywhere else. Good deal.
Do you have Amazon Prime?
No.
That's what I figured.
Nope. And you know what I found out really interesting is your shipping comes just as fast if you ship it to a pickup location. Quite literally. And it's still free. I mean, the only major advantage, the only reason Amazon Prime is super useful is not only do you get the shipping perks, but you also get the fun extra perk of, streaming all the stuff. I just don't really care to sit there and watch a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we have Netflix, so we don't really use that. We have all sorts of stuff.
I have a NAS with a lot of movies.
We have too many subscriptions.
I do too.
I can explain how many subscriptions we have after.
Yeah, we'll do that later. All right, so basically Instacart changed how it pays its shoppers, and a lot of people are saying that this actually isn't any better. In fact, it's really good for the company. It's really not good for the people. So some posts came out on Medium, and they said that their take-home pay has fallen again by an estimated 25 to 50%. All right, so many see a continued devaluation of labor that provides the backbone of Instacart, the guaranteed $15 minimum hourly wage that some veteran shoppers were paid when they were hired just a few years ago has disappeared. So they used to pay you up to $15 an hour guaranteed. Now they're down, new system for around $25 an hour to $12 per hour before expenses. And this goes back to, you have to remember, they're not saying you're an employee, so you are completely liable for all of your expenses. So you're going out, you're shopping for somebody, you're using your time, you're putting wear and tear on your vehicle, you're dropping things off. You're only going to get $12 to $25 per hour before all of your expenses. All right. And so here is that Medium article they talked about. So this guy even says it's now paying workers as low as $3 an hour. And here is literally what some of the screenshots are showing. Estimated earnings $1.82, including tips, to deliver one delivery order, 2 bags, 0.7 miles. No, I'm not going to use my car to drive 0.7 miles and then, maybe a total of 0.7 miles for $1.82. My time's a little bit more valuable. $1.36. Ooh, this is 6 bags. 6 bags? You're going to get $1.36 for 6 bags. And this one's 7 bags, $2.15. Woohoo! Look at that. You guys want to sign up for that?
If you're a homeless alcoholic, you might find a few of those that might bite around here, but that's it.
Yep. And so that's kind of what they're doing. Of course, Lyft drivers sue. They argue that they're employees rather than contractors, very much like what's going on there with all these types of systems down there in Australia. So any final thoughts on any of those?
I want to pose the question. What can consumers do? Because this is all driven by consumers largely, right? Because people want everything cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. But services, because I'm in the service industry too, so good services cost money, and you have to expect to have to pay a decent amount for a decent service. everyone wants everything at the cheapest possible rate, and I think that's unsustainable.
I think you do have a point there, Vince, because even for myself, when I buy something, I don't buy a bunch of little knick-knacky, garbage, cheapy things. I buy the bigger, more expensive things, and I usually don't cheap out on them. I'd rather have nice, good, big things than a bunch of knickknacks that cost $2 or $3, or a big thing that costs half of what it's, because the value ain't there, and it's cheaper and it's not going to last longer.
Yeah.
I buy things that last. I'm the same way. I'm probably like that because I'm partially a mechanic, and I buy tools, and I like tools that last, and nobody likes tools that break when they're trying to earn a living with them.
Yeah, I agree. I try to buy stuff that's not super cheap. Like I did not too long ago because I was trying to save money, but now I want more expensive stuff because I have the money for it.
Yeah. I mean, I needed to get a better camera for my other channels where, I'm less on a computer and more on, just more out and about. So I paid a good $800 for a good camera,
There are some things you can cheap out on because you're only going to use them 2 or 3 times and forget about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the speakers I have were pretty cheap, and they're great speakers. They're about $30. They're great speakers. I need a new monitor. That's the main thing. This is like it was like a $100 monitor that I needed just so I could hook this up to a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I usually run $100, $200 monitors, and I have great luck with them. AOC and Acer monitors are really good. I have a lot of luck.
I'm probably going to get one of those Dell Ultra Sharp ones because those look nice.
All right, so back to what Vincent asked about, because I have a list of solutions down here, what he was talking about. What do we as consumers do? Here's my general solutions. For the better of society, guys, for the better of society, don't use these apps if possible. I mean, there's times that you need to order in a pizza, you need to order in a McDonald's, you need to order in some food. There's times to do that. But if that's your regular pattern and habit, we probably slow it down a little bit. And the reason is it causes demand for these types of things to go down. And we've already established generally that these gig economy things are not necessarily good for the end people. Really good for the companies, not as good for everyone else. And so here we have a situation where so many of these are popping up because everyone's using them. If we use them less, they're going to be less of them coming up. All right. Any thoughts on that point?
I'd agree.
Go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think Tom's got it right. There needs to be a point where the people using those apps need to stop and decide what's important and what kind of whether the extra cost is worth the extra value.
It's the same. It's the same thing that you said in all your videos. You have to give up convenience. That's the only reason why people are doing it is convenience. Because they're watching a Netflix movie, they want some pizza, they fire up their Uber Eats, they order some pizza, and then they get it delivered.
Absolutely, yeah. Dan?
That's why.
It makes me wonder because when I've ordered stuff from Amazon in the past, it's either come in the mail or by UPS truck. Lately, they're sending out their own drivers in a car of some sort that's unmarked and leaving the stuff on your doorstep.
That pisses me off. Let me tell you a fun story about that crap. When I rebuilt this computer, they wouldn't let me pick it up. They wouldn't let me ship it to a post office box. They wouldn't let me ship it to a pickup location. They're like, you have to ship it to a house address. Fine. So I give them my house address. I'm shipping $600 of computer parts. The things like, it'll be out on Sunday. I'm like, Sunday? Really? I'm literally at home, sitting right next to the door all day. They just walked up, set it on the doorstep, and left.
They didn't
knock on the door.
$600 parts. I watched the car pull up, guy run, do a drop and dash, and he was gone. Didn't even beat on the door, ring the doorbell.
Yeah. It's like, and I didn't have the ability to leave feedback on the order. It's like, my feedback was going to be very positive for the actual order, very negative for the delivery. But they need to stop doing that.
I know. They ignore all of the fragile signs. Like my mom ordered some stuff that was fragile off of Amazon. They just threw it down on the porch.
Yep.
Like they didn't even care.
Are these,
It's like,
these
it's like
delivery
these
drivers?
did you ever see the UPS video where they heave the thing over the fence?
Well, here's the thing, too.
It was like
I had
a
a box
computer
of-
monitor.
I had a box with a very expensive tool, and it dropped off on my porch. And they didn't even bother to put it in a plastic bag and everything. And the box got all wet and soggy and everything else. Luckily, the tool inside was wrapped in plastic.
Are these delivery drivers contractors too, where you guys are? Like,
Yes.
Because I presume they are here as well. So
Yep.
We don't know if these are even gig economy drivers for that Amazon contracts out.
Yeah, it's what's happens is Amazon is starting to establish their own network of gig economy delivery drivers is what they do. I haven't really covered it much, but yeah, that's what they're doing. Brian, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, down here they drive around in little golf carts and they drop stuff off. And I do a lot of computer work and I work from home. And again, I order stuff. They just leave it on the porch. Thankfully, I have a covered porch, so it gives a little protection from rain.
Yeah.
But
What is
you
this?
know,
Is that
leaving
their
it-
policy to just drop it there and run?
That's
Yeah.
what they do.
Because
That's what they
because
do.
I'll tell you, like where I was at, it wasn't even a house. It was literally an apartment complex, and my door's the first one there. Like everyone else in my complex has to walk right by my door, and there's like this much space between the door and the rest of the walkway. They dropped a $600 of computer parts on the front door without knocking.
I mean,
Holy crap!
Yeah, the paper boy does a better job of bringing you your newspaper.
I'm telling you. So
Yeah, my father got a delivery of a computer one time, a complete computer system. It was about $700-800. They left it on his porch. He did not have a covered porch. It was raining that day.
Yep.
And he called me up that night to come over and help, install his computer for him. I had to take it out of a soaking wet cardboard box. Hope it still worked.
I'd have sent it back. I'd be like, send it back. Yeah, give me a replacement, I mean, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is part of the reason why I prefer buying like computers parts and stuff like from the store.
Yeah,
Because-
I would love to, and I approached all the local stores. We had one place that could get parts in. They charge you full retail plus 15% for like installation. I said, dude, I'm installing myself. Well, we still have to charge it. Well, I guess you're not getting my sale then.
Yeah, we have 2 micro centers here, so we can.
You got
do
2
that.
of them?
Yeah, we have 2.
Want to send one up here?
Yeah, down here, the closest store to me is Best Buy, which is in Daytona Beach, 40 miles away.
Wow.
Hey, we
I'm
have
up here
Best
in
Buy.
I have a
Colorado.
micro center, but it's 40 miles away.
And
Ours
Best
is like 15 miles.
And Best Buy does not have a very good variety if you're really into, detailed stuff.
Yeah, and like Best Buy, like Micro Center, the salespeople will try and sell you what they want to sell you, not what you want to buy.
Exactly.
Yep. I usually
At
tell
our,
them I'm gonna be wiping the whole thing, installing Linux on it. They usually walk away. So
Did you actually, will they do that if you tell that to them?
That's
I don't know.
actually exactly what happened one time. I was buying a laptop from the Best Buy, and because I needed it right away on a project I was working on, and they're trying to sell me an extended warranty. And I said, hey, the first thing I'm going to do is wipe the hard drive and put Linux on it. And they told me, you can't do that. It would void the warranty. And I said, that's why I don't want the warranty, because that's what I'm going to do with it.
That's why my laptop is $200, my Linux one.
Yep.
Because it doesn't even matter.
Yep. All right. My second solution, if you are using these services, regardless of what their stupid app rules are, tip your service provider directly. That tip is probably, the dollar or two you give them is probably more than they're getting paid for that particular service. So if you are using these types of things, whether it's they're dropping you off your double Whopper with cheese, or whether it's giving you a ride, tip them directly, even if you're technically not supposed to, because these guys,
it's a guy
if
do
you
that all
give
the
them a
time.
tip, the company's taking most of that tip anyway. So,
I like that point, Tom.
A lot of times they just won't accept it.
Yeah.
Like my dad's tried to do that. They just won't accept it.
Yeah. Well.
Oh, the
that's what
Hungry
Windows offer.
Howie's guy will take $10 if I give it to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it depends. But at least offer. If he doesn't take it, he doesn't take it. But at least offer.
He's like on a gig economy thing too, because he's just a pizza delivery guy, and that's all he does is he goes to the store, picks up the pizza, and takes it to him, and then he hangs around the store until someone else needs one taken to him.
So what's he gonna do when all the pizza delivery trucks are the big thing? You ever seen those ones where basically it's an autonomous type vehicle where you place the order, it literally cooks the pizza in the back of the truck en route to your house, and then they ping you and you go out and grab your pizza.
I will not eat a machine cooked pizza. Nope.
I need one of these.
Just want one for the house, right?
Yeah.
All right. Only accept these positions for these gig economy jobs if absolutely necessary. It is not your own business, despite whatever their marketing happens to be. All right. This is the surf owner taking advantage of the poor guy who just can't get a job anywhere else. And this is where the gig economy is so dangerous for modern society, because we have been sold for so long, finish high school, go off to college, and that's just going to open the door for a great job and you'll have a great thing. And all that generally happens is most of the people that go through that, they just end up in debt up to their eyeballs and now relying on gig economy things just to put food on the table, and then they can't pay their taxes at the end of the year. It just becomes a giant mess. So go to college if you need to for what you want to do, but don't take these gig economy things unless you absolutely need to. And
don't go to college to deliver pizzas.
What's that?
Don't go to college to deliver pizzas.
Yeah, if you're just going to deliver pizzas, just deliver pizzas. You don't need a college degree for that,
So it's not like what the dream is. Like, you can't just go to college and then you can walk out and immediately get a job.
Yeah, I mean,
most jobs these days are the good ones are who you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how you get in the door to a really great job in this country.
And there's if two equal people are there, many, and this is really the differentiation. If you're going to get a job at a corporation is not going to hire you without a college degree for the most part, depending on the job. But a small business person cares a whole lot more of, do you have the ability to do the work? So I think Vincent and Brian, you guys have both had employees. So Vincent, what's your take on that, having current employees? Do you look at a college education, or what do you look at when you're looking at hiring somebody?
We've had to learn the hard way. It's not just about qualifications. I completely agree. Reliability is a big thing. Communication, you cannot teach that at the college. I'm sorry, but good communication is hard to teach.
Right. I agree with Vincent there. In my experience, the best employees I had were the ones that I hired because of how they handled themselves, how they communicated with people, how reliable, personable they were, and how well they knew the job. And some of my best people didn't even have a formal education. Some of them went to like a trade school and they learned it that way, and they were excellent at it. So in my experience, it's not really the college degree that determines how well you could do a job. It's your dedication, it's your personality, and it's your knowledge and your willingness to apply yourself to the job at hand.
Yeah. My dad owns a pretty big business, and if he gets job applications in, the first thing he does is he looks at their college education. If they have had a college degree in the last 10 years, he just shreds their application. He doesn't want to look on them. He says in the last 10 years, all that's happened is college has taught kids to be whiny, to make them think that they know more than anybody else. He's like, no, you're not going to come into my business and think that you know more than I do because you went to college. And so he just simply doesn't hire anybody who's been to college recently. I mean, unless it's an absolute solid recommendation from somebody that he knows. But he's like, I want to bring in somebody who is humble enough to ask for help, and I'm going to train them in what they need to do.
I go to so many companies to work on their equipment, and their bottom line thing is they want to see at least 2 years of college of anything just to show you've completed something.
Yeah, I have a friend down in Virginia that's going through the same thing, just looking at different jobs. And he says, like, every corporate job, they ask for all this college degree, but it has nothing to do with
It
anything
could be
they're
a
doing.
college degree in changing diapers. They don't care as long as you've completed 2 years.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting, but of course that's mostly the companies. Your non-companies, like your small businesses, they care a whole lot more about your ability and efficiency in doing the job rather than what your actual pedigree.
I mean, there are so many little intricacies of whatever your job you have for someone is that they can learn those things on the job. But if someone is, you just need to prove you're willing to learn it. You've got to prove the dedication is there.
Yep.
Yeah, anyone can learn a job, but you can't learn to have a personality. You can't learn dedication. Those things are innate. You either have them or you don't. And someone who's got the personality, has the dedication, and is willing to learn, he can pretty much teach anything. The only exception in my field being if someone needs credentials because they have to hold a license, like, a nurse or something like that, where they have to have that RN after their name.
Yep. And that gets back, if you want to be a doctor, a nurse, a CPA, a lawyer, you have to have the education to get the certification. But
right.
Yeah, I know one of the things my parents and I have talked about is that it would be best just to go to like a 2-year college that specializes in this one thing, and then you can walk out and get a job.
Yep. Generally a lot better to do something like that.
That's what my parents and I were talking about.
Yeah, and really for you being your age, what I would do is start thinking about the things you want to do, and then what you want to do is figure out the things you need to learn, and while you still live at your parents' house, you have a practical 0 cost of living, you figure out everything you need to do to make that happen, and that's really the thing. So that way, is it experience? Is it an education? What is it that you need? Is it the money? If you know that you want to go out and be a doctor, a lawyer, or something that needs a degree, you better start working now and saving as much as you can and fronting down every scholarship, looking at every opportunity, figuring that out. If you don't want to be something that requires that, then do a 2-year or just get practical experience well before. Like everything I do now, I don't have any degrees in. I spent 10 years in higher education. I worked in the field for 3 years full-time, a few odds and ends part-time, but for the most part, as of right now, I am 100%. Everything that I do, I've learned entirely on my own, whether it's video production, whether it's graphic design, whether it's things. In fact, when we're done here and we're off air, I'll show you guys the latest book cover I just finished, and it's awesome. Like, I looked at version 1, I'm like, I don't really want to change much, and all that's graphic design stuff that I learned on my own. I never had classes for that, so that's kind of the thing. So that's good, really good advice from your parents, too.
Yeah.
Right, and what I teach at a state college, which it does offer a bachelor's degree if you want to go for it, but a lot of my students are in either the 2-year program or they call it the academic certificate program. And a lot of them, they come in, they go for their like CompTIA A+ or Network Plus certifications, and then they go out and get jobs. And part of my job is, to teach them what they need to know to work in the field to get a job. And a lot of them are already working at jobs and they just want the certification for a raise or whatever. And that's fine.
Yep, that's all good stuff. And kind of our final point here, our final solution and why we're wearing our tinfoil hats today is this. The goal of the gig economy companies is to move as many resources out of the general population and into the hands of the company. That is ultimately what the final goal is. All right. And I'll point you to a couple articles to demonstrate that. I've talked about this on the news a couple times, but Lyft and Uber and all these other guys, what these guys are trying to do is they're trying to champion and campaign and get people to think that it's more expensive to own a car than it is to just buy a service through Lyft or Uber and let them do your rides. Now, AAA came out. This is a few months back. Now, AAA comes out and says, no, it's actually cheaper to own a car. Lyft says otherwise. So Lyft, the difference, I think, if I dig down into this, is that Lyft is taking your average right now, which is honestly stupidity. Do you guys realize right now the average car payment in America is, I think it's $568 a month? That is insane. And then, of course, you have to have the full coverage on it. It's a brand new car. Let me help you out. You never have a new car unless you have $1 million net worth. In other words, you don't buy a brand new car unless you're a millionaire. If you need to get a newer car, 2 or 3 year car is just as reliable as a brand new car. It will last just as long as a brand new car, and it's going to cost about 30 to 40% cheaper. Okay, I bought my last car in 2009. I've had to put $1,000 into repairing it since then, and I did regular maintenance. You want to tell me that it's more expensive to own a car than it is to get Lyfts, you know? But AAA came out and basically disputing, because Lyft has been championing this thing that it costs so much money to run a car. So Lyft's entire idea is to get people to sell their cars and rely on them. That's a great plan for the guy who owns all the cars. Okay, and if you remember this, I did cover this one in my news article once. Lyft in Chicago, Lyft was paying people $550 to ditch your car for a month. And of course, this is their bleeding heart. Oh, we're going to save the planet with all this environmentalism stuff. All of this is a smokescreen to get people to dump their resources so that the people in charge of the companies own everything. Think of it. Do you have a payment plan on your smartphone? Guess what? Your company owns your phone. You don't. Do you not have a car and you rely on Lyft and Uber? Guess what? They're kind of in charge of that. If they tomorrow decide that they want to double the rates, guess what? If you don't have a car and you don't have those resources, you're done. You are now a slave to the corporation. We started this talk about the gig economy produces serfdom. And if you give up all your rights to these folks, you guys are just you're gonna find yourself in a place where you are at the mercy of a big company who cares not about you. Its bottom line is to care about its shareholders, and that means extracting as much money as they possibly can out of you and giving it to them. It's a great plan for Lyft and Uber and Waymo for you to sell your car. It's a great plan for them, not for you. So keep that in mind, and that's why we're wearing hats today, to keep that thought in mind. So what are your guys' final thoughts?
They already do that, don't they? Uber already has something called, I can't remember what it's called. It's a congestion pricing or something like that. When there's a big demand, they hike their prices up double or triple.
Yeah, surge pricing is what Uber calls it.
That's surge pricing. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my philosophy as far as car ownership goes is you hang on to it as long as you can, because once it's paid off, it's free pretty much, other than insurance and gas and repairs, as long as you own it. And if you're handy, with tools and you can do a lot of the repair work yourself, you could save a bundle. And I've driven cars well above 200,000 miles. I've had some cars for, 14, 15 years. The dealerships don't really like it because, they keep bugging me, hey, trade in your car. We could lower your payment. And I'm like, what payment? I don't have a payment.
So you're going to pay me to drive this car.
You don't want
that's a good deal.
You don't want to get into a new car. I got a brand new truck for a rental 2 weeks ago, and is a 2019 model. This thing had a radio in it about yay big, and it was all touch screen. And for a pickup truck with such a huge, it had the biggest engine that model came with. And the guy's telling me when he had to show me all this stuff before I can even take it out the door and take it home for 2 days. And there's a switch on the dash. If you don't want the motor to shut off at every stoplight, you got to turn the switch, flip the switch every time you start the engine, or else you'll have that going on. You show me how to work the radio.
The thing just turns off the engine if you stop at a stoplight?
Yeah, and then you hit the gas pedal and starts back up again.
Yeah, my mom's car has that. You stop and it turns off the engine.
A brand new car, because the cost to repair it, if something went down in it, would kill you.
You guys know that it takes more gasoline to start a car than it does to let it keep running for 5 minutes?
Yeah, but
I don't
that's
know
not
what these
even
people
it.
are thinking.
Yeah, when you're
a
in
starter
these
motor
cars,
died.
That was my first thought, because this had happened before, because Chevy Malibu started this about 4 years ago when I had to rent a car to go down south. The engine shut off every time I come up to a stoplight, and I had to call the rental place because we rented the car to drive down to North Carolina. And they said, yeah, they all do that now. And I'm like, can I stop it? No, you know. And you just pull up to the stoplight, the engine shuts off, you step on the gas pedal, it starts back up again. And
oh my God.
I know one of the things is my dad has a Tahoe. In his car, it'll only use 4 cylinders when you're like driving down the highway or something.
Now my truck will do that, but mine's a 2012, and that's technology for that time. It'll shut off 4 cylinders when it don't need it at certain speeds. It also has an alternator in it too that drove me nuts for a while because I thought that was going bad, where it'd stay up around 14 volts and all of a sudden it shut off and just dripped right past the center, right into about the 10 volt range. And all of a sudden it'd kick on and it'd shoot right back up. And I took it to the garage and I told him, can I buy an alternator for this thing? I think mine's going on the fritz. And then the service guy, there was a service writer at the door there, and he goes, come here for a minute. You don't need a new alternator. They all do that now. They're energy efficient alternators. They turn off when your battery doesn't need to be charged anymore.
That is so bad for your battery, it's not even funny. Batteries need to stay as charged as you can keep them.
Lead acid batteries behave differently. They're kind of weird. They can put up with a certain amount of that. I mean, my battery lasted
they can put up with a certain amount of it, but any battery stays viable longer the more you have it charged. Like I have extensive research into solar battery systems, and I've learned all of the lead acid, the GSMs, the only battery that is not negatively impacted by that is a lithium ion battery.
Tom, I had thought that NiCads, you were supposed to charge those shorted.
What? Nickel cadmium, I didn't do the research because they're not the types of batteries that you would use for that. Like nickel cadmium are like small utility batteries. I've studied solar systems.
Oh, okay.
And so where you either have a lead acid or you have a GSM or you have lithium ion are pretty much the 3 techs that you'll get out there. And with the lead acid and the GSM, you only want to discharge them down to no more than like 40 to 60%. If you do, then it messes them up. But they are never dangerous to keep fully charged. They lose their efficiency as they are run down, though. And so that seems so weird to me. And that's what a charge controller is for, to make sure that everything perpetually stays charged. I don't know. I mean, Dan, is this not right?
Well, it doesn't seem to bother at all. I did finally, after having the battery in the truck for 4 years, and on the 5th year, I thought, well, it's 4 years old. I better get a new one because I don't want to be monkeying with this out in the cold. Mm-hmm. So I just went and bought another battery and went to the auto parts store. He goes, oh, you got one of those. They now use deep cycle batteries. Mm-hmm. In that application. So I had to buy a special battery for it.
Yeah, but even deep cycle batteries, that's what you want to get for solar systems. Even deep cycle batteries, you do not want to let them discharge down. You never do.
No,
you always want to keep them as full as possible. Mm-hmm.
You don't ever want to...
Yeah, I've killed a couple of lithium-ion batteries by letting them discharge.
Are we still streaming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll jump off here the stream in just a minute. In fact, any other final comments?
Just don't use these services, and if you do, tip them.
Yeah.
Regardless of if their company policies don't allow it, just tip them.
Yeah. All right. I don't think I'm gonna have the time to jump through all the comments here. So my apologies, we didn't get to all the comments here today, but hopefully the discussion was good. Well, I'll leave this up, though, so we can all flip through the comments here, and maybe I'll comment on those later. Let's see. Okay.
We have all kinds of comments from trucks to batteries.
Yeah, I know. Totally awesome.
I was trying to keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
To college degrees. I've been looking at them, but I haven't really been able to type anything.
Yeah. All right, anything significant we need to jump into?
These services, I would avoid them like the plague if you can. Don't start getting hooked on them to the point where you're all of a sudden relying on them. I would try and stay away from them if you can, and if some reason you got to use one of them, be really generous to the person that's actually providing it.
Yeah, I really like the idea of tipping people, at least treating them like people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and if you tip it through the app, then they're going to get a lot less of that tip than if you tip them directly. I have a friend that works at a dairy, and tips. As long as he's working the counter, he can survive on tips, and he banks his paycheck. Of course, still living at home, but and it's tips is how a lot of these people eat. In fact, here's another fun thing about tips here in the United States. If you're like a waitress or something, a waiter or waitress, like front staff that is reliant on tips, they actually can pay them lower than minimum wage, which is kind of exciting, but they have that legal capability.
Do we have any other mods on? I haven't been modding.
Yeah, no, I didn't see anyone, but I haven't seen anything out of control either. I think Dan's a mod too.
Yeah, I've been looking and I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I've been monitoring the comments. I just haven't really taken much time to comment back in, just seeing if there's anything exciting. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up the right way. Oh, come on, kitty. Come on, kitty.
It's hard to read the comments, mod, and be on screen, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on, kitty. Come on. Come on. Oh, there you go.
There's the kitty.
Hey, buddy. That's right. There you go.
It's really funny. I look at the other web browser with your green screen and full, complete, doing its thing, and I look on the Hangouts screen, and it's green behind you. It looks like a green piece of carpet behind you.
Yeah.
Did you just get some green material and put it up on the wall?
It's like a fabric from
like Joann's fabric?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, it looks completely different on the regular thing everyone else is seeing.
Yeah. You guys definitely see a whole lot different than we see over here. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and jump off here so I can hang out with the supporters for a little bit, guys. So thanks for coming along, and we'll leave the comments up there. My apologies we didn't get to looking through the comments, but and I will be streaming again in about 40 minutes on my other channel. We're going to be talking about what translations of the Bible exist and things like that, because we're going to be looking at some interesting things. So that's on Our Walk in Christ. So thanks for hanging out, guys, and we will catch you over there if you want to come on over.